Good evening and welcome to my channel Centuries Untold, where I will walk with you on travel through centuries, where we will explore the fascinating world of past and present, and will try to answer questions such as what, how, why. So today's topic is very interesting. I have picked this topic because I felt that I need to say something about this uh, because it has some implications in our day to day, in our modern, world, the world that we live in, politically speaking, spiritually speaking. So I'm going to talk about this topic, and I'm going to tell you what is the origin of this, where it has come, what led to that, and if it's the right mindset. It's talking about mindset, right? So the topic today is the Arab world and the Muslim world. That's right. The Arab world and the Muslim world. Now, most of you have, I'm pretty sure most of you have already heard this term on the TV, on the news, on the social media these days. You have heard a lot of political leaders, news channels, anchors, analysts, intellectuals, politicians, even so much so, religious leaders use this term when it comes to some situation in the Western Asia, as also known as, by the way, Middle East, and where there is some situation with the Muslim countries, right? So they use this term. It's called the Arab world and the Muslim world. Now the question is, what is the origin of this? Why these leaders, the media, and the politicians, they use this word? Are they really two separate words? Should they be two separate? Like the Arab world and the Muslim world. I mean, what is this really meaning to you? Now, I'm addressing to everyone, not just one particular community. I want to know, what do you think? Okay? We are not talking about a culture here, like Arab culture, right? We're not talking about this because they are saying the Arab world and the Muslim world, like they are two separate things, right? My audience are also the Arab people who believe, who think, who consider themselves as Arabs. I'm not talking about nationalities, okay? There could be Egyptians, there could be Iraqis, Palestinians, Jordanians, Saudis, Kuwaitis, for that matter. I'm not talking about nationality, I'm talking about their ethnicity. So I'm also addressing them. Now, I understand that there are Christian Arabs as well in that part of the world. But I'm addressing this to the Muslim Arabs because the topic obviously is the Arab world and the Muslim world, right? So again, what is this meaning to you when you hear this word? I'm asking my Arab friends. So when you hear this word, the Arab world and the Muslim world, in context of a situation that is going on in the Western Asia, like I said, I'm using I'm using, by the way, I'm using this term Western Asia, okay, to represent Middle East because that is the right word. Middle East is an outdated term. we should not even use this term Middle East anymore. Right? But what is Middle East term? It means nothing, right? So it's really Western Asia. So back to my point, what is this? You know, I'm asking this question to my Arab friends. When you hear this word, the Arab word and the Muslim word, what you actually thinking? When you hear somebody say, even the Arab leaders. I was watching a, a press conference, I think, recently, where some Arab leaders were, you know, giving some briefing, some press conference on some recent issues, and they were using the same term. Excuse me. The Arab world and the Muslim world will decide. I mean, that means they're basically saying the Muslim world. Basically, that's what they're saying. Now, I will let's go back to the origin, the what part, right? The origin of this thing. What is the background of this? So I have to take you a little bit back in time, so you understand the origin of it, the behind, that evolved into this. So I'm not going to go back too far, only 100 years back, just before the First World War, because as you know, until up to First World War, which ended in 1919, the whole Western Asia, pretty much excluding Iran, was part of the Ottoman Muslim Empire. It was part of their empire. The Ottoman Caliph, also known as Khalifa in Arabic, was sitting in Istanbul that time, and he represented the overall Muslim world, generally speaking. Now, as we know that during the 19th century, 18th century, two countries from Western Europe, England and France, was trying to control, occupy, attacking overseas nations, countries, right? So Egypt, by the middle of the 19th century, Egypt was pretty much controlled by the England, the British. Algeria was under the control of France, and Libya eventually came under the control of Italy. And eventually Lebanon and Syria came under the protection of, so-called protection of France, right? So they basically divided those nations and established their own sphere of influence. Meaning that, well, if I'm controlling Egypt and I'm going to tell France, don't come here, I'm controlling this country. I'm controlling the fate of millions of Egyptians. Similarly, France will tell England, don't come to Syria and don't come to Algeria. Aljazair, also known as Aljazair, right? Because I'm controlling this country. These people, the millions of these people are under our control. We will decide, we will tell them how to live their lives, right? So that is what it means, area of influence, sphere of influence, that's called in political terms. That each country thinks, don't come to my area, I will not go to your area, basically. So similarly, they did this in that part of the world. And so you need to understand a little bit. I'm going to take you to Western Europe in mid-1850s. This is a time where in Europe, in those countries, where there are a lot of upheavals basically going on. The old kingdoms in Europe were overthrown. New kingdoms came up, not kingdoms, more likely democracies were coming up. People were awakening, right, in Europe. So they actually, because of that situation in Europe, each country kind of confined itself into what we call today is nationalism, right? So if I'm England, if I'm British, if I'm Englishman, I will just say, okay, well, you know, I'm an Englishman. England is my country, so I'm going to just focus on this part of the country. That's it. I have my own culture. I have my own, king. I have my own tradition, land. So I'm nationalist. Similarly, a Frenchman would say the same thing. A German would say the same thing, right? Italian would say the same thing. So, because of that mindset that they had established those norms in their own countries in Europe, when they came to this part of the world, they said, okay, let's do this. And not just, and so they have basically two purposes for this. One, to control those countries. Secondly, to inject them with the same dose that they were using in their own countries. Basically saying, you are this, he's that, and you don't have connections to each other. That's nationalism. And as we know later on in the history, it had a very serious repercussions, consequences in the same shape of Second World War, right? So the second purpose was because in the situation with the Muslims, right, it was a little bit different. The Muslim nations, Muslim religion had a concept of caliphate from the very beginning, as you all know. So those countries Muslim countries were under different caliphate during the period of throughout the history. And the latest were the Ottomans, obviously. So they had a different set of mindset and culture that really revolved around that concept of caliphate, basically, up to that point. So when they came over here, these countries, British and French, they started to break this thing. And how did they do this? They did by saying to those Arab people over there at that time, they're mainly those Arab chiefs, tribal leaders, and said, look, you are an Arab. He is Turk. He is Iranian, right? So you have a better claim as an Arab because your religion actually started with you guys. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? So why are you under Ottomans? You need to stand up and kick them out. That's how it started. And unfortunately, what happened, those Arab chiefs, tribal leaders, that time, it suited them. You know why? Because they saw an opportunity to kick Ottomans, Turks out and take those countries, control those countries, and therefore they could establish their own families, kingdoms, which we literally saw exactly that's what happened. In Saudi Arabia it happened, Jordan it happened, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, everywhere, that's what happened. So comes the First World War, the British were successful in persuading those Arab chiefs, tribal leaders, to come and side with us. And we will both kick out the Ottomans, the Turks. And then, once that's done, we will wash our hands and we will leave. And you can just do whatever you want to do with your land, with your country, with your people. That's what they told them. And again, unfortunately, the Arabs, tribal leaders, chiefs, came under that trap, basically. So as we know, after this First World War, the Ottoman Empire was over. So were other empires in Europe. But the Arab chiefs, leaders at that time were expecting that the British and the French will fulfill their promise. Guess what? Never happened. They never meant to fulfill their promise. They just used the Arabs so they can kick Turks out of those areas because Turkey was siding with Germany during the First World War. That's why. Okay? So the Arab chiefs, leaders at that time were really, really shocked. I will give you one example. The current kingdom of King Abdullah bin Hussein in Jordan, also known as Urdun, his great-grandfather was the Sharif Hussain of Makkah at the beginning of First World War in 1914. And he was promised by the British that they, after, if you help us kicking the Turks out, this whole area, what we call Hejaz on the Red Sea side, will go to you. You can establish your own kingdom, right? But that never happened. After the war was over, because British, as they were making this promise to Sharif Hussain of Makkah, they were doing the same promise to Saud, who was the tribal chief of eastern part of Arabian Peninsula, which is today known as Saudi Arabia. So they were also making promise to them. So they were making a false promise to both of them. The only reason Saud was able to control this part because he was victorious in some of the battles. That's why. So Sharif Hussain had to leave Hejaz, and he basically begged British to give him something. So they literally, I'm telling you, literally, two civil engineers sit together in an office in London somewhere, and they open the map and they literally draw lines. Okay, so let's make this a country. And they call that country Jordan, Urdun. Okay? It may be shock to some of you who do not know this information, this fact. So that's how Jordan came into being. And that Sharif Hussain of Makkah was given the option, you can take this land and you can establish your kingdom. That's why, if you look at Jordan's official name, it's called Hashemite, Kingdom of Jordan, because Sharif Hussain of Makkah came from Makkah and he claimed to be the descendant from the Prophet's tribe, Hashim. That's why. Okay. Anyway, so moving forward, so when I'm just going to go to, so now let's go to, so Second World War happens, and we know the colonial powers could not stay in any part of the world. They had to leave those areas. But before they left, they did end the second dose of nationalism. A full dose they gave to those leaders in the Arab countries, in Arab lands. Another nationalism injection with a full dose. So when they left, though there arose the military dictatorship in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, anywhere you name it. And those leaders, particularly in 1950s, Jamal Abdel Nasser from Egypt, who rose, he raised another slogan called Pan-Arabism something, right? What does Pan-Arabism mean, basically? It means, right, let's forget Islam, forget this, forget that, right? And let's focus on Arabs. That's it. We are Arab, that's it. Right? So he began with that. And then he actually asked Syria to unite with them, which did not work well. We all know that. It failed. Right? Because we all know that. Because it could never work. Pan-Arabism or pan-anything cannot work. Because it never will work, basically. You can just pick a history pages and you will see anything that happens pan would not work. And this is a separate topic. I can probably discuss this in some other time. But back to my point. So that failed. Moving forward, they kept on, saying this. So this is where the first time you will hear this Arab world and the Muslim world. Really, in the 1940s. Even if you look at the newspapers before 1940, you will never see this world, the Arab world and the Muslim world. Arab and Muslim world. You will always see only one thing, the Muslim world. Okay? Only these people, these generals from 1950s, they raised the slogan of Arab and Muslim world because they were so much focused like this, narrowed, focused. They couldn't see beyond that. And they failed. All of them failed. Nasser failed in Syria, Iraq. They all failed, basically. Right? The Saudi Arabia did not fail because they never said these things. They never said Arab and Muslim world. They were just kept quiet. So my point is, my dear friends, my point is this. When you deviate, try to step away from the basics, from your roots, from your origin, you're going to face problems. You're going to face consequences, whether you like it or not. You're going to play in people's hand, basically. In this case, nation's hand, other countries' hands. Okay? I want to ask you guys, to my Arab friends, Arab Muslim friends, isn't just the word, the Muslim word is enough for you? Or you have to make a distinction between the Arab word and the Muslim word. Basically, it means the same, right? But you want to say separate. Can you explain why is it that necessary? Now, I understand some of you will say, well, Arab, there are Christian Arabs too. There are that and that, right? I understand that. But answer this question honestly. When a person, outsider, says an Arab, right? What he really implying? Is he implying a Christian or he is implying a Muslim? I can bet you he is implying a Muslim, right? So when we say Arab, generally speaking, like I said, I understand and I acknowledge there are Christian Arabs. I have friends, they're Christian, they're Arabs, very nice people, very good people, right? And that's not a point. The point is, when you say Arab, generally speaking, you are basically saying Muslims, right? So let me give you a parallel example, so maybe you can understand. If I tell you there is an army marching toward the city, and I say there are 200, 500 soldiers marching toward the city, right? What would you assume? What will come to your mind? Like 500 women are coming, they're soldiers, but they're women, right? Or you would automatically assume that 500 soldiers are coming, there are men. I bet you will assume when somebody says 500 soldiers are marching, you will understand, and you will assume men, not women, right? So I'm not saying any offense to women, but I'm just giving you an example. There are women soldiers, I understand. So that's not the point, right? So my purpose with this example is to tell you this, to give you some parallel, right? So when we say Arab, we're really meaning, generally speaking, we are looking at a Muslim, okay? Now, that's why I'm addressing this, to ask my friends, like, when you say, is it really necessary? It never occurred to you to raise this question, awareness, and say, well, having a Muslim word, to say a Muslim word is enough for us, right? Is good enough. Why we have to go to make that distinguish and say that, Arab and Muslim word? They're not two separate things. Like I said in the beginning, even lot of Arab leaders, politicians, even religious people that I have seen in some cases, they are under this trap. Okay. Now and I just gave you some background of this, where actually it all started. Okay. So this is something to think about it. And it's not a sense of pride. It's not a sense of superiority, I would say. You know, okay, this is not make you a proud, right? Now, I'm not saying that one should not be proud of their country, their nationality. They should. There's nothing wrong with that. You could be a proud Arab. I could be a proud Turk, or whoever I want to. I'm a proud American. Yeah, that's fine. But there are certain things, there are certain areas where you need to be aware. You need to be knowledgeable, basically. And if you at the end of the day you decide, no, I'm okay with this, that's fine. But you need to know what is the origin of this, where it all started, why. We always tell our children, ask questions, right? So this is a question you need to ask. Why is it really necessary? Your identity, now I'm going to say less than a minute, say something that relate to your religion, right? Is it what is your identity basically? You are Arab, that person says I'm Iranian, like I said, other person says I'm Turkish, and I'm Pakistani and American, whoever, right? That's fine. But is this your only identity? Remember, when you hear this term, the Arab and the Muslim world, on international forums, I'm talking about international forums, like on a media, press conferences, seminars, political discussions, political leaders, intellectuals, so-called intellectuals coming to the TV channel and making speeches. That's where it matters. That's where you need to say, no, I'm not going to use this term because the Muslim world is enough for me. Because unless you tell me you don't want to be inclusion, don't want to be included in that Muslim world, that's it. Then that's a different story then, right? But regardless of you like it or not, that's how it is. You're part of that bigger, right? And like I said, it is not a sense of superiority or inferiority. It is a matter of a principle. It's a matter of who you are, right? Because somebody sitting thousands of miles away from your home made that choice for you. You need to think about this. And here I'm going to close my video with this one last quote from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he gave his last sermon. I know I don't have to explain that because my Arab Muslim friend knows what I'm talking about. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave his last sermon, khutbah, he said a lot of things, right? But one thing he also said in that no Arab is superior to an non-Arab. And he used the word Ajami, which basically means non-Arab, right? And no Ajami or no non-Arab is superior to Arab, vice versa. He said that. I'm sure pretty much every Muslim he's aware of that. He knows it. So he said this 1400 years ago. We are in the situation that we are in today, right? Because a lot of the deviations that we have, you know, implemented, self-implemented on ourselves, and that's why we are in a situation where we are, as collectively speaking. So please think about this. What I said. You may not have to agree with me. That's fine. You are right to be disagreed. But think about what I said. Does it make sense to you? Again, it is a mindset that need to change. Only then you can see things in a bigger picture. You can see the bigger picture. Okay? So I hope you guys like my video. And please give me your comments. And don't forget to subscribe my channel. And, you know, press the like button and the bell icon. So I will be recording more videos in the coming weeks and months, inshallah. And very interesting topics I will discuss. So thank you very much. Enjoy your evening and fall. I will see you soon, inshallah. Bye.